got the Vaxee Outset AX Wireless. Of course, we have the ever so great Lamzu Thorn. And yes, oh yes, we have the Pulsar Xlite V3. My gosh, these are some good ergo mice. And I know some of you are asking, yo Techne, what about your previous main, the Razer Deathadder V3 Pro? Well, you know the wireless one has flex, and the wired one, well, it has a wire. But let me be straight with you. I can't resist taking the Razer Deathadder V3 out for the occasional dance here and there. And even though we have 3 different ergo mice here, they're all somewhat similar. I mean, don't all ergo mice just copy the Zowie EC shape anyways? But again, they all do have slight variations, and that's what I'm gonna break down here for you. And we can sit here and talk numbers all day. I can slap them all up on the screen, throw out some other comparisons, but numbers are just a good reference point. What I'd like to do here today is something a little bit different. I want to break out the FLIR camera and actually show you some grip points of the mouse as far as heat contact. And kicking it off with my grip, which is going to be different than yours, I'm sure. As I sit here and hold it, you can see my fingers right here by the side buttons. I got to go up a little bit. I actually grip it right down here, right in line where it says outset. So I do got to reach for the side buttons a little bit. But as far as on the other side, you can see my fingers up towards the front and then towards the side and up right here on the buttons. As far as in my palm, you can see down on the bottom, it's kind of resting on both sides. Now I'm going to take my hand off the mouse here and you can see the heat points where it's actually touching. So you can see right back here on the back, we're getting that heat touch right on the side, right over here. Not too much right and back middle, but definitely on those 2 sides. You can see it right up at the front here. Oh, we are calibrating. And then you can see over on the side. The key point I want you to notice is this right here, because that is a serious contact point on the Outset AX. Whenever you get it in your hand, even though it's a bigger ergo, you clear as day feel it right back there. That is my key contact point, right? So you got your 1 and 2, and then your sides where your hands always are. But on an ergo mouse, some of them, you can kind of have it back here dancing around a little bit. But once you start pulling it up here, getting next to those side buttons, you clear as day, always feel it right there. Now taking a look at the Lamzu Thorn, which is quite similar to the Outset we just take a look at. Whenever I get my hand on it here, I'm going to grip it. And again, this is kind of when I'm in that locked in position, I really want to pull those shots out. You can see my thumb is still closer to the bottom. I still got to reach up a little bit for the side buttons, not nearly as much on the Outset AX over there. You can see on the bottom, it's resting down towards my palm. Over here, you can see my fingers are still resting in pretty much the exact same spot. I grip an ergo the same pretty much all the way around. But as far as in my hand, sitting right here, you can clear as day still feel it right down here on this side. So I'm going to take my hand off and you can see you got pretty much the same results. Maybe not as drastic as the Outset, but you can still see my hand is clear as day hitting back there. Not too much right back in the middle. My fingers are still the same up there. And then again, as far as gripping on the side, I grip mine a little bit lower, kind of on that mouse pad so I can direct it. Same with my pinky over here on this side. But again, I'm not getting all this crazy contact over here. It's really all majority on that left outer side. And that's what makes the Outset and the Thorn very, very similar, especially when you get them in your hand. You clear as day feel that outer hump on the inside right there, which is going to constantly hit you in that side of that palm, which is nice if you like locking the shots and really holding them and you're not dancing around a whole lot. Now switching it up a little bit, taking a look at the Pulsar Xlite V3 here, this one is a little bit different and you can probably just tell just by the straight up shape. So when I put my hand on this one and kind of rest in there, as far as the button reach, it's probably the exact same as the Thorn. I still rest mine down a little bit. These buttons do not recess out as much as say the Thorn or the AX, but we'll talk about buttons here shortly. Right now, I want to show you these contact points. So again, as far as my grip, even just moving it around here a little bit, yeah, my palm's still going to hit in the back here, but I feel it freeing up a little bit. When on the other 2 mice, it's pretty much always right there. So again, I can kind of rest this one here, dance around a little bit, hits me in the palm, now it's out. Hits me in the palm, and now it's out. So when I take my hand off of here, you can see you still have some of those contact points, but it's really localized right down there at that bottom bit. So you can see you just have that, oh, we're getting a little fuzzy here. Hold on, let me get my hand out of there. You can see you just have that little bit right back there, and then you have all this other open space on the back end. On the previous ones, it really filled out that entire back end. So I hope those visuals with the FLIR camera helped you out a little bit, because you can truly see they are all very similar. It's not like, say, if you're going with the Atlantis over here, here and you kind of feel it touching you all around in the hand, or it can be clearly open on, say, a smaller mouse. An Ergo mouse really feels out your hand quite similar. If you use the EC2, you're going to be right at home with these. But again, talking the difference between the Thorn and then the Outset AX, when you come over here to the Pulsar Xlite V3, again, you can tell that difference and you can kind of get a little more maneuverability with the Xlite. Now, another great thing about all three of these mice is they all have very solid builds. And I'm going to prove that to you here with the force meter. We're going to test how many pounds we can press on these mice before they start flexing. And you can see I can get up to 10 pounds on the Vaxee Outset anywhere, on the top, on the sides, both sides. Okay, we're just sliding off, even on the bottom, and I get nothing, no give whatsoever. Now over here on the Pulsar, we got the opening on the bottom. If I press down and we get up to 9, 10 pounds of force, we do get a little bit of flex, but if you're pressing the bottom of your mouse right here, you're using your mouse completely wrong. More importantly, if you come over here onto the side, no button actuation. I just keep sliding off, but no button actuation all the way up to 9 something pounds. On the top, no flex whatsoever, even nothing on the side. With this mouse being open and everything, with such a solid build, it is awesome to see. Now coming over here to the Lamzu on the bottom, if we just get right up there to 2 pounds, roughly around 3 pounds of flex on the bottom, you do get a little bit of movement. But again, if you're pressing the mouse that hard on the bottom of your mouse, you're using your mouse completely wrong. As far as on the sides, this thing is incredibly solid all the way around. Even if I get up to that 9 to 10 pounds of force, even on the top, even on this side, I get no give whatsoever all the way up to 10 pounds. So who's going to be pressing their mice with up to 10 pounds of force? Probably nobody. But why I've always done the pressure test is I want to know we're getting a quality product. And even with 10 pounds, is it going to give way? As you saw, no. And it's awesome to see that you're getting a quality product. And you all know I'm not a weight junkie, but yes, weight does matter per mouse. And why I say that is because, again, as far as feel in the hand, if you're using a bigger Ergo, it's filling out your hand a whole lot more. So again, you got a whole lot more on it and you're moving it around a little bit more with your arm and your wrist, rather with a small mouse that you're just in with your fingertips and you're kind of flicking it around like that. You're going to notice that weight a lot more if it's on a smaller mouse rather than a bigger mouse. And that's really going to show when we take a look at the weight of these three mice here. Starting off with the Vaxee Outset AX, when we put it on a scale, we're going to get 72.5 grams. A lot of people might say, yo, that's too heavy in this market these days. Coming over here to the Xlite V3, this is the regular one, not the one with the scroll wheel and the screen, coming in at 55.3 grams. And then coming over here to the Lamzu Thorn, coming in at 51.6 grams. So there's no denying the Vaxee Outset AX Wireless is the heaviest out of the bunch by a significant amount, honestly. And when you get it in the hand, yes, you clear as day feel that difference coming over here to the Pulsar, or especially the Lamzu Thorn, and you clear as day feel it. Now, is that a pro or a con? Again, as I stated, when you're on a bigger Ergo mouse, it's filling out your hand a whole lot more. And again, after a few rounds, you don't really notice that weight because, again, you're not flicking and dipping it. But yes, I will tell you, the Lamzu Thorn, just coming over to it, felt really nice and natural in the hand. Now, where I think some of that extra natural feel came from, other than just weight, is how they implemented the feet here. As you see down on the bottom, you got your traditional 4, nice big one around the sensor, and then these 2 little dots on the outside. That's really going to help you with that dive and that flick to the left and the right whenever you start moving a lot quicker. It's going to, again, have that natural flow with you. Coming over here to these 2, you can see the Pulsar is open on the bottom, so if you're using a softer pad, it's going to sink down into there. Looking over here on the AX, you got your feet, big one up on the top and the bottom, just like Zowie, but over here, you have all that openness, so whenever you're gliding, again, if you're using a softer pad, me using the Lethal Game Saturn Pro, a little bit softer, I can feel that slight drag. Coming over here to the Lamzu, again, it's gliding smooth across the entire mouse. So does weight matter? Well, heck yeah, it matters. But as I stated, a little bit less when it comes to an Ergo because it's filling out your hand a whole lot more. Now there's another difference you're going to notice as far as in hand with these 3 mice. The Pulsar and the Lamzu are using optical switches, and then the Vaxee is still using mechanical switches. Let me give you a quick sound test and then we'll talk about them. Starting over here with the Vaxee. could clear as day hear the difference between the optical switches and the mechanical switches. Is one better than the other? A lot of people will swear by optical switches, saying they're going to last longer, they're going to be snappier, right to the point, no delays or anything. It goes through that laser, bam, and you're done. But I will tell you what, in hand, the optical ones feel a little bit heavier. You can clear as day, again, hear it. And that's just a common thing across optical switches. Coming over here to the Vaxee AX, my gosh, these things are snappy and right to the point. But some might say this feels a little more mushy compared to an optical, which again is just pressing right down to the point. Me personally, I still love a good classic mechanical switch. Now let's dive deeper into the buttons of these mice, talking about the scroll wheels. And the scroll wheel on the Pulsar, as you can see, it does stick out the furthest compared to all of them. It is also the lightest. I'm not talking super light where you're going to get accidental slips, because I use mine to cycle weapons and press it down to throw grenades, and I never once get an accidental slip on this. That goes in line to why I do not have the Xlite ES out here with the metal wheel, because in the sweaty environments, a little hot down south here, my finger will accidentally slide off it. I'm not talking about accidental slips this way or pressing it down, even though, wow, this one is snappy and right to the point, almost too snappy. But my main concern was, again, if I'm cycling, I will catch my fingers slightly rolling off the edge. So I prefer, again, the regular Xlite with the rubber and plastic wheel. Now coming over here to the Lamzu, again, it is plastic with the rubber, but it is slightly firmer than the Pulsar right there, and it also sits lower. If you can see it right there, it sits really nice and low. You can just almost roll right over it, which I absolutely love on this. And again, it does roll over. It's not squared up or anything, so it's kind of natural transition if, again, you just slide up onto it rather than having to lift your finger up. And again, no accidental presses. You got a nice tactile click right there. It's not too short by any means. And then coming over to the Vaxee Outset AX. As you see, it's recessed in there pretty nice as well. We're struggling to get some focus. Pretty much right in line with the Lamzu, but it is squared off a little bit. So if you try to slide your finger up, it's going to bump stop right there. You almost got to lift it up, even though it's still nice and recessed in. And this one is definitely the firmest out of all of them. You kind of get that zowie feel without that zowie sound, and it's nice and snappy down. It's also the firmest to press down as well. Now let's talk about the side buttons, because there's some significant differences here. So let's kick it off by taking a look at the side buttons on the Vaxee Outset AX Wireless. As I stated when we were looking at the grips, these do sit up the highest, at least for my grip. If you grip up here towards the buttons, you're going to be perfectly fine. Not going to matter for you. Again, I'm the one testing these mice, so you're hearing about my grip here. So for me, yes, they were a little bit high, but more importantly, my back button here is almost got a little bit of mushiness if I was to press back here on the back side. I doubt the camera can pick that up, but you can see it bows out in the front and the back sinks in. If I press it here in the middle, it's crispy and right to the point. Now, luckily for me, again, gripping right here, I'm pretty much always snapping these buttons right here in the middle. Now, a side complaint, I do wish there was a little bit more of a gap here, because you can almost rush your finger right across these here, and it almost feels like one button. It's almost hard to decipher the front one to the back one. Now, coming over here to the Lamzu Thorn, it's significantly different. Number one, you have really no play. These are as snappy as the front buttons, right to the point. They stick out, they're bold, they sit a little bit lower, but they are still high for my grip. But again, they stick out so much, they're quite bold, that is a little bit less travel for me to get there. And you got that gap in the middle, so you can clear as day feel them. But my goodness, these are some of the crispiest side buttons in the game. Coming over here to the Pulsar, these are very big, definitely Zowie-esque type side buttons, but they don't stick out as much as either of those two mice. So whenever I come up here and get to them, I can clear as day feel them. I got that gap in the middle. They're so big that I got, again, minimal travel to get to them. But yes, they do sit into the shell a little bit more. So if you're one that doesn't like really resting on your side buttons, kind of like you feel over here on the Lamzu, and you just want to flow with them, just slide up to them, that's where the Pulsar is really going to shine. So as far as buttons across all three of these mice, they're significantly different. And if I was to pick which one's my favorite, I would honestly want the button size and placement of the Pulsar. I would want the button clickiness and feel of the Lamzu, and then I would definitely want the 1 and 2 feel of the Vaxee. Now, quickly covering the performance of these three mice, they all perform absolutely flawlessly. But what you are going to notice difference is the Pulsar and the Lamzu, I do have the 4K polling dongle. Over here on the Vaxee, I only have the 1000 polling rate. I believe their 4K one is out already. Again, I just haven't used it. But the great thing about the Vaxee is there's no software needed. Everything can be adjusted right on the mouse with these buttons here. Motion sync, your DPIs, your liftoff distance, everything right down there. Now it's a little tricky. You kind of need the manual. You got to like hold the button, flick this one on and off, but really cool. No software needed over here. Now coming over here to the Pulsar, I pretty much do my software a bit, delete it, and it's good to go. And that's it. And I can actually sync multiple Pulsar mice to this one dongle. Now, yes, you can also buy the Pulsar Xlite V3 ES that does not require software, just like the Vaxee. You can control everything right on the screen down here on the bottom, and it comes with the 4K dongle. You're paying $30 more, so it's going to bounce out to the same. And it's currently, you cannot pair this dongle up with other Pulsar mice. So I still think you're getting a win over there. Also with the screen, you got a bigger battery, you got the screen, and you do feel that weight on the back end. Hence the reason I always recommend the original or the regular Xlite V3. And then as far as the Lamzu, as you see, we do have the coolest 4K dongle in the bunch right here. And that one is also purchased separately. But at the core, as far as performance to performance to performance, they are all absolutely spot on. Even talking about 1000 polling rate to optical switches to 4000 polling rate, they are all flawless. You're going to have to look more at your system, your internet, your game performance and all that stuff, your monitor, before you start worrying about, again, optical to mechanical or 1000 to 4000. I'm with you. I want the latest and greatest tech as well. And yes, those micro improvements do make a difference in the long run, but focus at the core of your system first before you start worrying about stuff like this. And get better at your game before you start blaming polling rate. So now let me touch on why I'm not using a Razer Deathadder V3 anymore. And no, it's not because that side flex that creeps up on you on the Pro version or the wire that's on the regular version, which by the way, the wired version is rock solid and I use the heck out of it. I actually really like the coating on this one as well. And you can save some money. But getting a Razer Deathadder V3 in the hand, it is a bigger ergo. It's that safe ergo though, because again, it's not really drastic. It's not flaring out too much on any of the sides. The buttons are big, the scroll wheel's there. It does so much right. It's a bigger G Pro. That's the way I always refer to this here. It's not like the older Deathadder. This is a very safe ergo, but it is bigger. And coming over to these mice, which are not small mice, but again, the curves make them a whole lot more flickable. Coming back over here to the Deathadder, just instantly, 1-to-1. As I put it in the hand, same grip, the Deathadder is filling out my palm, and I'm always in there. It's always in the back of my palm, which is great if you're playing that game where you really need to lock those positions constantly. That's where this is going to be great. When I played a lot of Call of Duty, I loved this. Now coming over here, I'm playing a little bit more Fortnite and such. I like to be able to dance around a little bit more, and that's why I love these three. So it's not so much that something's wrong with the Deathadder V3, minus that side flex that I experienced on 3 copies. It's just clear as day, a bigger ergo. All right, so now that we had a good look over of them as far as a user, not just reading the back of the box or the website specs, which one should you buy? That's really not for me to decide. I'm making this video to help you decide. And I know this isn't going to answer every question for you. Whenever you get these mice in your hand, you're really going to be able to feel the difference. And it's honestly hard to pick one out of all these. But I did pick the Pulsar Xlite V3 as my mouse of the year. But hot dog is the Lamzu Thorn. Something special in the hand, and they actually just came out with this Fanatic one, which is lacking a little bit of red for my taste. And then when I come over to the Vaxee Outset AX with these fantastic clicks and the feel in the hand, brings me right back home to my love for Zowie mice. You honestly can't go wrong with any of them.